ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new podcast here on WeSPN Sports. My name is Johnny Samp, and you can find me at Real Johnny Samp, but this is the Beer, Meat, and Cheese podcast. We're going to have a lot of fun with Packers football and so much more around the NFC North. It's going to be a great time. I hope you guys join along. Make sure to like and subscribe and follow me on Twitter. I do a lot of Packers active stuff. So if you are a fan of the green and gold, this will be a really fun time. But let's get right into things. Just to give you a little background on me, I'm a big Packers fan, live in Green Bay my whole life. The green and gold kind of bleeds through my blood. I've been more active on Twitter with the Packers, and I'm trying to get more involved with them. But anyways, once again, this is going to be a podcast just for your enjoyment, listening before the game, and hopefully you gain a little knowledge. I'm not going to say I'm the most knowledgeable. I'm not an expert on the Packers field, but I definitely love Packers football and everything about it. So let's get after it. So let's just talk about who we're going to have on this show. We're going to have some guests, some some Packers fans, and some people that I've known for a long time that really know their Packers football, have been around the game a lot. And they reached out to me and said they wanted to talk football. And I said, you know what, we can make something happen. And that's what we're doing right here, right now with this new podcast, the Beer, Meat, and Cheese podcast. So get your grills ready and the tailgates down because it's going to be a lot of fun. But let's get after it here in week 3. I know I'm starting a little late, but week 3 of the NFL season. And we'll talk first about the Packers and get things going with them. So the Packers had a big win versus the Colts in a running dynamic game. I mean, Matt LaFleur probably called one of his best games for Malik Willis because he knew the starting quarterback didn't have a lot going for him. And there was a lot of skepticism going into the game on his passing performance and that sort of thing. So it was really nice to see Matt LaFleur changing things up and allowing the offense to just become a run-first offense, really kind of taking it to the Colts, who have been a run-heavy team for the last number of years, and a team that really has relied on the run, hasn't really had a great passing game since Andrew Luck was there. And I was really impressed with what they did with the Jayden Reed, jet sweeps or swing around the end. And then running it up the middle with Josh Jacobs. Man, that dude was pounding the ground, and he was looking fantastic. But first, let's talk about Malik Willis, the man of the hour, the man of the week. Everybody's really happy with him here in Titletown, and I can't say why not. I mean, he's a class act. We've seen in his post-game interviews. He's not selfish whatsoever, and he really seems like a really good dude. And I'm actually kind of glad for him because he kind of had a rough road there in Tennessee. To get things going, it started in his career. But let's talk about how he did. So he went 12 for 14, 122 yards and 1 touchdown in that game. Now the touchdown was to Dontavian Wicks, one of the leading receivers in this core, I would say. I know a lot of people say that, around our division especially, they say we don't have a receiver number 1. Well, we do, I think. And it's going to be Romeo Doubs. I would say he's probably our most consistent receiver. But I would also say that Jayden Reed is going to be a hot mess for defenses, and Dontavian Wicks is going to be just a mess as well, along with, I think Bo Melton's really consistent too. I really like what he's doing. I think he looks really good. But then on the flip side of things, Anthony Richardson, he didn't have such a great game. Never really seen him as a passer. He had a big passing game week 1 or 2 where he kind of launched a couple balls and they did get complete. And it was 17 for 34. He had 1 touchdown but 3 interceptions. Packers defense, huge credibility there because that is a defense that we have been looking for a long time. A bunch of ball hawks in the back in the secondary there. And it all starts, with the pass rush, though. We got our pass rush. Yes, they didn't get to the quarterback. I know that's been something that's been addressed during the week. They didn't get to the quarterback quite as much as we would have liked. They kind of got around, but they got him out of the pocket. Anthony Richardson, not very good out of the pocket. I mean, just from the early going in that one. And he kept throwing interception after interception. And it's great to see turnovers for the Packers defense. We haven't seen that in a long time. Going back to the Pettin days, from Dom Capers to Pettin to Joe Barry, and now we're finally with Jeff Hafley. So, I mean, he looked really good. He made a lot of improvements on the run defense as well. They looked a lot better with Kenny Clark and TJ Slayton up the middle. That was really something that I was impressed with, that big change, because up the middle was just basically claustrophobic or constipated there if you're going with the cheese side of things, and you weren't getting shit through. And that was a really good defensive line, and I love to see that from the Packers. But we got to go back to the offensive side a little bit and talk about Josh Jacobs. He had a monstrous game. Now, on week 1 versus the Eagles, he did not have a good game. I'm not gonna, cut any slack for that. He did not have a good game. I don't think anybody really had a good game with that one, just because the field conditions, the different conditions in Brazil. I don't think he really, anybody really accommodated to it. Even the Eagles side, I give them a lot of credit for winning that game. But the Packers, they just definitely had a harder time adjusting, and they didn't look as solid as I think they could have. Now, I see this team as a championship team. I really kind of put my coins in it. I bet at the Oneida Casino $100 that the Packers are winning the Super Bowl. So I'm really hoping that pans out, because then I win $1,600, and you might see some changes to the old studio setup. Might get a little bit nicer if I do get that dough. But it was insane to see Josh Jacobs running so well that game. I mean, that's the kind of running back Green Bay's been waiting for. We had it for a long time. We had it with Eddie Lacy, and we thought he was going to be the guy. Then he just decided he didn't want to play football anymore, and kind of gave out on things. But it was also the debating factor there was, with Josh Jacobs was, is it worth the Aaron Jones giveaway? At first, I was against the Aaron Jones giveaway. I'll be honest. I thought Aaron Jones was kind of a workhorse, kind of the mule of the offense last season. And I think a lot of Packers Nation would agree with that take. He was good in the passing game, and let alone he was good in the running game as well. And I didn't know if Josh Jacobs would be able to, come in, a younger guy, and be that leader that we've needed. But he sure has. I mean, he's really looked good in the opening games. I mean, I'm always going to dismiss the Philly game in Brazil just because across the sea games are always tough. Not necessarily across the sea, but, down to South America. That's always going to be a tough game for any team. Different conditions, a cooler condition here in Green Bay, even though we are seeing 80s and high 80s right now in September, which is just ironic. It was a really good game for that Packers team, and I really liked how they played. I'm not going to say I want to see that run first all the time, because I don't think the run first is going to be winning any championships for us. I know Jordan Love is, he's got a more talented arm than I would say Malik Willis, but we played to Malik Willis' skill set, which was really impressive for Matt LaFleur to kind of flip around that playbook and make things happen on the offense. I mean, I was really shocked when we went on that first drive and had success. I mean, frankly, the team looked good. They didn't look like they missed a beat. Now, Jordan Love, I've heard today that he was at practice, which is a positive sign coming with the Titans this weekend. But I also kind of want to see Malik Willis' revenge game, see what he can do. Not that I like revenge games. Packers get a lot of them. I know I'm going to the September 29th game versus Minnesota, and that's going to be a revenge game for Aaron Jones. So that'll be interesting. But I want to see Malik Willis. If he plays, I want to see what he can do. I would like to see him pass more, because I think he does have a really good passing game that's really underrated. So that would be, something that would be impressive. And I think it'd be really cool to see what he can do, especially in Tennessee on their home turf. If he could take over and do things, I mean, Tennessee might be scratching their heads, feeling like, they might have missed something there, and they might not have generated quite the quarterback that they're hoping for. But, I mean, it kind of comes with the culture, though. At Green Bay, a quarterback, we're a farm for quarterbacks. And, the Tom Brady clip goes really sentimental to that, with his talking about quarterbacks sitting out a few seasons and then watching getting developed. I think that he was totally right on that. I think we did it with Jordan Love, and it worked out fantastic for us. And I don't know why every other team in the league is not going for it as well. But, yeah, so I think that was really impressive, that first game. Or for Malik, first game for Malik Willis, but second game of the season for the Packers. Green and gold looks like they're riding high right now, and you love to see it. But let's talk about this upcoming game versus the Titans. Is there any concerns for me? Not necessarily. They have a solid run game, and it's going to be, through Pollard. Obviously, Pollard, former Dallas Cowboy. And Will Levis has seen some talent here, so he might not be somebody to joke with too much, but I think the Packers' defense especially is going to come up big this Sunday. If I had to estimate, I would guess we get probably, as a team, I'm going to say we get 5 sacks. I'm going to go optimistic here. I just feel like as a team we get the pass rush going. Hopefully Quay doesn't miss quite as many tackles. He's been having a rough start to the season. Hasn't looked real good. Been missing tackles. I know a lot of Packers fans are kind of after his head. And rightfully so. He's been missing the gaps in the tackling situation, especially in the run game. I mean, there's video from him in Philly where he's just totally shooting the wrong side of the A gap, or between the guard and the tackle, and he just completely misses the cue there. And it's something that you want to see him get better at, be a little more patient. But I also do like to see the aggression from a linebacker. I don't like linebackers that sit on their heels. I like linebackers that are coming up and making those pass rush happen. That's the only way. If you add pressure, you're going to create diamonds. You just got to add the right amount of pressure at the right time. So I would like to see what the Packers can do this weekend, especially with their defense, once again. Now, taking a look at the Titans, they are 0-2, so they had that losing record, losing to the Bears and the Jets. But the Titans are still favored in this game, which is shocking to me. I believe the line was at 3, or the spread, excuse me. And, I mean, what reason for it? I really don't understand. Malik Willis, yes, he's not the starting quarterback. But Will Levis, is he really that much better than Malik Willis? I mean, we're talking about a guy that slipped out of the first round. I believe he went mid-second round. And, Malik Willis was a solid quarterback in college. I don't really quite understand how he's slipped so far in the NFL rankings. I mean, I know a lot of guys don't like his arm talent, and that's understandable. I mean, he doesn't have the greatest arm talent, but it's something that he's going to have to work on a little bit. And I think he's going to get it. If he gets the start, it gets the nod. I think he has a really good chance against Tennessee to show what he can do, because Tennessee is not that strong on the defensive side of the ball. It'll be a good challenge for him. Might give Jordan Love an extra week to rest, which would be nice. I would like to see Jordan Love in the Minnesota game, just because I'll be there, and hopefully you guys see me of some sort. I always like people seeing me. Not necessarily, but it would be nice to see Jordan Love come back, maybe get an extra week of rest. I know they're talking about him coming back this weekend. Do I feel real comfortable with that? No. Just because I feel like it's, I don't know if he had ayahuasca or whatever it's called from Aaron Rodgers, but it seems like a quick return. I know it's just a sprain, but even with a sprain, I could go out for a couple weeks with a sprain. But he is a football player. They are different than what I am. And it'll be interesting to see if he does come back with that sprain, because, how is he going to throw? He kind of throws out that back foot, which I'm not necessarily thrilled about. I know he picked that up from Rodgers, and it does take a lot of talent to do. But I would like to see him get involved with more driving throws, working from that back foot over forward to the front side and really kind of hitting those pockets tight. I mean, he has insane accuracy. He's got good arm strength. He's built just like Rodgers was, and it'll be interesting to see what he can do when he gets back and healthy. But I want to make sure he's healthy first. I don't want to rush it, because come cold weather time, come snow, it's going to be a little bit different. Muscles tense up, and they try to keep warm. So I don't want to hear about the MCL sprain in December when we're playing in Green Bay and we got snow on the ground and everything else is going on, because I know we need him at that time. Actually, we need him probably the most in between October, I believe, is week 11 to 14. I think we have the Lions, Texans, Vikings, and Niners during that stretch. And that's going to be a really tough one. I think one that's going to really prove this season and prove what we're worth. I mean, it's going to be a telling tale. Now, teams like Minnesota, they got the tough games out of the way, and they got them done early. And right now, the NFC North is doing pretty well against those two teams, including the Texans and Niners. Now, the Bears did drop theirs against the Texans, but surprisingly, the Vikings, they beat San Francisco, and that's insane to me. How San Francisco came off from last week with the Jets looking phenomenal to looking like a butt. I mean, they look terrible. They didn't look as good as, they're pitched up to be. I have their defense on fantasy, and I suck at fantasy anyways. I'll admit that foremost right now. They're not a good, or they are a good team and a good defense, especially. They're defensively led, I would almost say, especially with that linebacker duo, Fred Warner and Trey Greenlaw. But my God, you lose to the Vikings? Like, come on. Now they're going to play really good in November or whenever we play them. Still trying to get Annie Agar to go to that game with me, but maybe she will, maybe she won't. I never got a response. I'm hoping I do one day. Hopefully she sees this too as an invite. But let's talk about a little bit on the side of the Titans and Packers game. So we talked about the Titans still being favored, and I don't understand how that's happening. Once again, I think that's kind of complete crap on Vegas' side. But apparently, Vegas is always right and we're always wrong. But I'm hoping, if we're still on the plus side of the spread, come Sunday, I'm going to throw some money down on that one because I got a feeling we're going to just smack some skulls. Whoever our starting quarterback is, I think we have a good playbook with both of them. Obviously better with Love, but this new playbook that LaFleur introduced this past week Sunday was really something different. I mean, we won 16-10. It wasn't a great game. It was kind of a grinding game, hold on to the end, which I'm not real thrilled about. I don't necessarily like those games. I'd rather just, get the Wayne Larrivee, there's your dagger moment, and we really didn't get that. But I still think we're a really good team. We got a lot of potential, and obviously I have us winning the Super Bowl, so that's where I'm at. I know people say I'm delusional. People say we can't beat the Niners, whatever. Well, yeah, we haven't in past years, but this year is going to be a different year. I'm a positive guy. I like to keep it positive, but we'll see what we can do. But let's talk about some of the other news in the NFC North. We obviously have three other teams besides the greatest team, the green and gold, as you know. So let's talk first about the real shocker on the North. Minnesota and San Francisco. I mean, what the hell happened in that one, San Fran? You guys are made up once again to be this great team, and you clunked out right in Minnesota. I don't understand what happened in that one. Justin Jefferson had a huge day. He got torched. Sam Darnold. I mean, you guys are allowing Sam Darnold to throw the ball. My God. I mean, you have Bosa on the other side, and you can't get a pass rush going. You guys have some of the best defensive backs in the league, and you can't do anything with that. And then your offense just stalling out like an old car. I mean, the Buick wasn't running that day, but my God, you let Minnesota walk all over you, and it was something that came as a shock, and I really wanted to see at least Minnesota lose one because now they are 2-0, and everybody else is 1-1 in the NFC North. So, once again, that 23-17 scoreboard. I mean, you guys tried to come back late, but you didn't do well enough because Minnesota still got to win, and now they're holding over our head. I see it in a lot of the Facebook trash-talking groups. If you see me on Facebook, be sure to give me a shout-out. I love it. Even if you don't agree with me, that's always so much fun to see for people to get involved. But let's talk about some other games here. It looks like the Bears and Texans played, obviously. And that one was pretty brutal to watch. I'll be honest. I don't like the Bears at all. Or actually, first, let's talk about... so now Minnesota has the Texans this week and C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud coming off a win against the Bears. And the Texans played a pretty solid game. I wouldn't say they played their best game. They looked a little sloppy and kind of let the Bears hang in there. But they could have been a lot better. But if I had to make a prediction here... So first I'll make a prediction for the Packers. Then I'll go with Minnesota here. So the Packers, I got a feeling they're going to win handedly. I'm going to go Packers 24 and Titans 14. 24-14 is going to be my final score for the Packers versus Titans, with the Packers winning, of course, because they are the greatest team on this earth. And then for the Minnesota game, they play the Texans. So I'm going to go Minnesota loses this one. I'm going to say Texans 28, Minnesota 20, or Minnesota 17, 28-17, Houston. C.J. Stroud, my fantasy quarterback, but I do have Justin Jefferson, so I like to see him have big games, but not against my green and gold. Keep moving on here. Now let's talk about that Bears game against the Texans. That was just disgusting. The Bears got just... I mean, I don't even know what happened with the Bears O-line. It was kind of like when you remember watching The Longest Yard with Adam Sandler, and the team gave up on him because he was throwing the game again against the prison guards. That's what that line looked like. I mean, they didn't look like they gave a damn. I'm blocking for Caleb Williams. He got sacked so many times, even I had to kind of change the channels. I'm like, oh my God. You want to see a train wreck, but you don't want to see the after effect of it. And that's what that kind of was. And it was just really bad. I mean, I know it was a close game, but the Bears just looked really bad in that one. Their O-line didn't have any sort of blocking. I mean, I don't think they could have stood in front of anybody. They looked like traffic cones against that defense. And it was just like, what are you guys doing? And I said this before, and I'll show you this meme that I made before the season started, and it was talking about, everybody's talking about, oh, Ryan Poles is this genius. Well, maybe he's a genius in some sense, but he didn't draft an O-line. He didn't get an O-line together, and now his, all-star quarterback's going to just get, bear down, I would say, because it happened to Justin Fields. He had to run around, scramble for his life. Now it's going to be happening to Caleb Williams because they don't understand that the offensive line is the key to that offense. And, Belichick talked about it too. Belichick said, oh my gosh, looks brutal on the Manning cast. And he criticized Poles because Poles, yes, he did trade the first round pick, gave it to Carolina, and Carolina picked Bryce Young, and they gave him a whole bunch of picks. And Bryce Young has turned out to suck. And, they got Caleb Williams, Onduze, and a couple others as well in that trade. So they really did get a lot, but they didn't get an O-line, and their O-line looks like ass. And I'm just going to say that right now. I think a lot of this goes on Ryan Poles. He had an opportunity to possibly keep Justin Fields in the Chicago uniform and go with a Marvin Harrison Jr. draft pick for the first pick, and possibly an O-line for that 9th pick that they had, or that later pick. I believe it was 9th, first round 9th pick, or 9th or 8th. I can't quite remember. So they had an opportunity to build the team still, but Poles decided to go with all talent, and I understand why. The USC kid was really good. Caleb Williams was really good. I liked him, but he doesn't have an O-line. So what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do to help him, Ryan Poles? I'd like to hear on his side of his plans for Caleb Williams moving forward, because if you don't give him time in the pocket, he's not going to produce like he did at USC. I can guarantee that. Now, USC played in the Pac-12. Pac-12, kind of a shitty conference, and I'm not a huge college guy, but I know the Pac-12 isn't the most competitive conference, or isn't the most competitive compared to like the SEC. You're going to see the SEC teams winning more often than not. But yeah, Caleb Williams got no time. So how the hell do you expect the quarterback to play? That's what I'm going to ask Ryan Poles. He's got receivers. Keenan Allen, why the hell did you go for him? He's hurt all the time. He's older than dirt. I think he's 32. He's washed up. And the Chargers didn't want him. That's why they gave him to you. So there's a lot of things to address there. I like the receiving core, though. With Onduze, Moore, and that's another topic. We'll go in Cole Kmet. But I'll swing it over to the DJ Moore topic. He looked frustrated as hell with Caleb Williams in that last one because he threw his hands up and whatever at a misread pass or a thrown pass, and he was not happy with it. And I understand, you had a guy that he thought Justin Fields was the guy for the Chicago Bears, and nobody else did. And I always said Justin Fields wasn't as bad as he got made out to be in Chicago. He's 2-0 now in Pittsburgh. He's playing pretty good football, and yet you guys are sitting there and at 1-1, and a Bears team that's really highly in question when you could have got a lot of offensive linemen. You could have got a lot of things built. Your defense is solid. I'm not going to say they're as great as they always claim to be, because last year when they played the Packers, they're the hottest thing, and they came in and they didn't look very good. So I'm waiting for that proof. But Poles, you got to get that offensive line going. And now we'll turn to a team that has an offensive line, a really good one, but I think a mid quarterback at best. And that's going to be the Lions of Detroit. They played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that was a good game. I'll give you not 20-16, I think the final score was, with Tampa Bay winning it. And Baker looked good. He's been looking good this season. I know there was that famous radio call-in with the Deshaun Watson Baker Mayfield debate, talking about the QBRs and that sort of thing. And that's funny. That's great stuff there. If you haven't heard that one, I believe it's on Twitter and Facebook. And it's like a radio show. The guy's calling in. He's talking about QBR. He just says the numbers. And then the radio host goes, so what are you talking about? And then he's like, the QBR of Baker Mayfield and the QBR of Deshaun Watson. And he's radio host totally flips out on him and goes, not today, or something like that. And then he's like, hang on, buddy. And it gets really escalated. That one is good. I really do enjoy that. But Baker Mayfield looked really good. I really like what Baker Mayfield's doing. He took a crappy situation in Cleveland. He went to Tampa Bay, or actually he was with the Panthers, and then he went to the Tampa Bay. He found a team that he works well with. He's got a Mike Evans, really good receivers. He's got a good, solid team. And I think Tampa Bay could win the South again this year. They're a solid roster across the board. The Saints also looking really good in the early going. But it'll be interesting to see what they do. But back to the fact, Lions let one go against a good Tampa Bay roster. And Tampa Bay, once again, I said they are really good. I don't think Jared Goff's as good as people say he is. I know he had a good season last season, but I still don't think he's the guy. I don't think, I'm going to be putting my money on Jared Goff. I know a lot of people say it, but I think he's one of the more irrelevant quarterbacks in the league. He's not real intimidating. He's not going to do anything. He's good in a controlled situation. He's kind of a situational quarterback, and he's good in his situation where he's in with the Lions with a good defense, good offensive line, solid receiving core, good running backs. And, he plays a good role quarterback. That I will give him that. I don't think he's going to be an outstanding all-star. I know I'm going to take a lot of flack from the Lions fans that have appeared from their caves recently. I see them all the time on Facebook now in the trash-talking groups, and I do love to mess with them a little bit. But yes, I do think Jared Goff is mid at best. I think he's second tier, maybe third tier quarterback in the league. I don't think he's top tier. I'll probably put him third tier if saying like maybe Mahomes at top right now. I would also put Rodgers up there, even though he is like 40. Over his career, I think he's the most talented quarterback of all time. I know that's a little biased coming from a Packers fan, but I'm going to put him up there. Tier 2, I would kind of put Jordan Love in that range. I'd put him at the probably bottom end just because he only had one season. He had about 9 really good games. But everybody always says he only had about a half a good season. But yet he was comparable. He was second in touchdowns, and he was comparable in passing yards as well. Not far behind, as well. But I know people don't like to credit him with that. But he had a really good second half of the season. He looked really phenomenal. And people say it's like the Linsanity of football. I don't quite believe that. I think that's a bunch of garbage. I think, Love's to stay. He's going to be really good. And the rest of the North better watch out because it's going to be another dynasty coming and going for the next few years at least. We got him for another 4. So that'd be good on that $220 million, I believe. $240 million contract over 4 years. So it'll be good to see Love around once again. I did see him at work once. That was pretty cool. It was him and his wife. Very tall people. I'm not the tallest guy, so goes to the credit to them. I believe they're both like 6'4", 6'5", and I think she played volleyball. Good volleyball player. But let's continue moving on around the NFL. There's a lot of injuries in the NFL. What is going on with injuries? Does anybody stretch anymore? The amount of injuries is insane with the NFL, and considering I have to reconstruct my fantasy roster because, 4 guys or 5 guys got hurt on my fantasy team is complete crap. What is going on? Last year was the turf thing. Everybody's blaming the turf. Is it just a lack of stretching, lack of muscle treatment before the games? Because it's kind of ridiculous how many guys get hurt in the NFL. And right now we've seen a lot of them. And it's just really crazy. Yeah. I don't know why, but it's not good. And in other news in the NFL, the Chiefs continue to have the refs on their side. I do agree with that. I think the Chiefs are kind of like the golden team, the golden boy that the Patriots once were, and they're going to always have the refs kind of in their favor. But, yeah, I can't stand the Chiefs. I don't like that Taylor Swift thing, but I understand it. She is Taylor Swift. She's got the Eras Tour. She's kind of the biggest singer around the sun. And, yeah, the Chiefs got it all going once again. It drives me nuts. I don't like the refs in the Chiefs game. And I can't stand Tony Romo's broadcasting. Raise your hand or give it a like if you agree with me. Tony Romo sucks at watching CBS Sports and seeing a Chiefs game, him talking about Mahomes. The guy just festers over the quarterback. And it's enough that the Nebraska quarterback's acting like Mahomes, acting, like he wants to be Pat Mahomes. And now we have Tony Romo just sitting there just like, fantasizing over Patrick Mahomes. It's just crazy. And then the final topic I have around the league, or one of the last topics I have around the league, is the Caleb Williams disrespect to C.J. Stroud. I didn't think it was a huge deal. I know people are making more out of it than it is. I can understand on the side of frustration of Caleb Williams, not having a good game, not looking good. But I can also understand on the Texans side of C.J. Stroud saying, hey, this guy's got actually some credibility. I mean, he's led a ass team to the playoffs and everything else, and that's kind of the situation that Caleb Williams is in. And it'll be interesting to see how that kind of pans out. Not really that I'm thinking much more is coming from it. But I thought, maybe it was just out of frustration. He just wanted to get out of the stadium, and I could totally understand that. And, I just hope he understands just kind of the look that he created for himself. And then finally, we'll talk about Tua. Tua, my man, just retire. Your head's soft. You got bruises all over your head. And it's not worth it. I mean, you're already making a ton of money. Just call it a career. That's my final take of the day. I mean, just let Tua just let it go. It's not going to be something that, it's kind of brutal to watch you because you're always worried that you're going to get hit, and it's no fun. I mean, not that quarterbacks really get hit anymore, but, when you do, it's really kind of hard to watch, especially on that kind of hit. I didn't think that was concussion protocol worthy, but I guess if you have 3 other concussions or 2 other concussions and it's a continuing process, it might be that sort of thing. But, yeah, so Tua, I would just hang up the cleats. You made enough money. It's time to call it a career, I think. Now, finally, I do want to thank everybody who tuned into this week. Once again, we will have special guests on the show, and we will have football talkers. This is just kind of the first week, just to kick things off, just to make everything get going and have something recorded on it. So I do want to thank you for tuning in to the Beer, Meat, and Cheese podcast. My name is Johnny Stamp once again, and you can follow me on Real Johnny Stamp on Twitter. I'm always on there, always posting stuff. Right now I got a push-up challenge. I'd like to see you guys give me some support. Every time the Packers score a yard or get another yard on offense, I do a push-up. So last week was 383 yards through the air and ground. So I'm doing 383 push-ups this week. You can check those videos out on my Twitter. And make sure to check out WeSPN. We also have some other cool podcasts going on, including High School Crunch Time. We talked about Northeast Wisconsin high school football teams and everything else. But once again, this was the Beer, Meat, and Cheese podcast, episode 1. And I hope you have a great night.